my wave video.
Okay.
I guess.
Welcome to the November edition of the Tucson Macintosh User Group meeting. Let's all celebrate Thanksgiving. In addition to Veterans Day, Sweet Potato Awareness Month, and National French Toast Day. The fact that the rest of the country has come to their senses and moved back to standard time. We will gather next on Tuesday, the third Tuesday of December. I still got November's information up here, which I think is something like the 16th. It's pretty early in the month at this same virtual location. This month, we'll be taking a look on how to make guides in Apple Maps. Of course, with our guest presenter, Jeff Fries, who is with us, I think. There he is, I think. Oh, there he is. Okay, I see his name, but not
I'm
his
here, but I'm
picture as
having the
yet.
same problem you had earlier, Bob. I shut off my video and now I can't restart it.
Where am I?
Yeah, I'm back and I can't get the video to work either.
Yeah, my screen says that it's been disabled by the host.
Yeah, same here.
Same here. Hey, host.
Hey, host.
It's all your fault, Roger.
Yeah, I do have a bunch of cameras with little lines through them, so let's see if I can unmute those. Oh, it looks like, well, let's work on Jeff first here. I guess it's a feature of the new update.
It doesn't
Well-
like 26.
While Roger's working on that, let me keep going here. National French Toast Day. I'd like that. This month we'll be taking a look at how to make guides in Apple Maps with guest presenter Jeff Fries. Jeff, why don't you try to share a screen and see if that works?
I can do that.
Well, we see the screen,
Oh,
so
there we go.
That's good news.
that's good news. So why don't you stop sharing and we will proceed with other stuff, which means you could give your demonstration even if we can't see your beautiful face.
Absolutely.
T-Mug is once again taking, we'll be matching contributions. Boy, I spelled that just terrible. To the Southern Arizona Food Bank, and thanks to all contributors. There's details about this in the newsletter. Basically, you make a check, a paper check, remember those, out to the food bank and send it via snail mail to our P.O. box. And Jeff, our treasurer, will collate all that and send them off to
You mean Mark,
food
right?
bank with a matching check of his own, of not his, well, he could do it his own too, but from T-Mug to help us support our neighbors. In December, we will have our Ask Me Anything session, hopefully hosted by Kevin, and we'll have a special guest presenter, Jill McKinley, is showing us how to take control of your health with Apple. Now, I know that Roger and Jeff have both seen her her presentation at MacStock, and we're going to try to do this again. She's going to do it again for us in December. She's not a large person, but she lost like 40 or 50 pounds over the past year using the Apple Health stuff. And she's going to tell us how she did that.
Awesome.
And I will say that she was such an inspiration. sorry to overshare, but I've lost 30 pounds since I was at Macstock and met Bob. So
Hey,
um,
congratulations, Jeff.
she's her story was very inspirational.
Is that why we don't have any video?
That's right. You can barely see me. I
Yeah,
turned
we're just
sideways.
too thin to show up on camera.
Too thin.
Well,
And what's the date in December? The 16th?
Third Tuesday. It's always the third Tuesday.
16th.
Okay.
So just a little note, Bob. I've tried a bunch of things to unmute the video on whoever is muted, and none of them worked.
I found something here about this, how to enable or disable participants' video if you're the host. It says sign into the Zoom web portal from the navigation panel, select account management, then account settings. 3, click the meeting tab in the schedule meeting section. To enable participants' video, click the toggle. In the enable participant video pop-up window, click enable. Optional, if you want to prevent users in the account from changing the setting, click the lock icon and then click lock to confirm the setting.
Dang.
Okay, well, Jeff is back.
I'm back.
What did you do?
I just clicked the button again on my video on the Zoom meeting, and it
Okay, so
started the video.
one thing I did for Bob and for Jeff was I made you co-host. I don't know if that triggered it or not.
Want to try with me?
Well, we can see.
I've tried enabling my video, but it still gives me that message
Yeah,
that cannot start.
Okay, well, I'll go into the admin and see if I can fix that. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay. Back to the announcements. Watch for Zoom to open a survey window. Let's kind of put that on hold until we get this other thing fixed.
Right.
The door prize winner in our October meeting was Gina Melcher. Gina, are you here this evening? Don't see that as yet, but congratulations, Gina. Please subscribe to the TMUG YouTube channel. You can find a link to that in the newsletter and the social media link to that on the newsletter and social media page of tmug.com. We will hold our annual election of officers in January. All members are eligible to run for office. If you have any questions as to the duties and responsibilities, please contact myself or any of the officers. It would be nice to have some new blood on the board. Subscribers to TMUG today who aren't being greeted by their full name at the top of the newsletter, and that's because we don't have your full name. And I've sent out emails to each of those email addresses. And if you wish to continue your subscription, contact me. Otherwise, all of those email addresses, and there's probably about 50 of them, will be canceled as of December 1st. And so if you don't get your December newsletter, you need to sign up for it again. Are there any other announcements that I forgot? In that case, are there any for sales or wanted to buys from the floor? Or any nominations for TMUG officers from the floor? And you certainly can nominate yourself. Okay, let's see. We have somebody on the screen named Karen. Karen, if at all possible, please change your name to your full first and last name so we know who you am. Okay.
Bob,
Yes, Chris.
I've been sitting here playing with my video stuff. Did you say we need to resubscribe to the TMUG newsletter? Or,
You don't.
okay,
You don't because I know your email address and I know your full name. So if it wasn't there, I'd put
Ah.
it in.
got it. Thank you.
So out of the 160 some subscribers, we have like 50 who I don't know their full name. And I've sent them an email asking them for their full name and they have
Got it.
not replied. So if anybody falls in that category, they're going to have their subscription stopped, which they can always restart with the full information. Okay, we're going to go on to our tech update and security news. If Ridge is giving me the high sign, so I think he's ready to take over. Please go ahead, Ridge. Let me rest my voice for a few minutes.
Okay, here we go. For November, of course. Starting with software updates that are probably of use to you all. 1Password is up to .18. And Affinity there is now all three of those applications are combined into one. And the version of their all is 3.01. Firefox got
And
some,
they're free.
huh?
Yeah, Affinity is now free.
It's free for a while anyway. We don't know if that's going to continue, but
I think it is.
Firefox has
so they
been
say.
updated. And probably if you use Office for the Mac, that had some updates. And as we said earlier today, Zoom Workplace is now 6.6.10. Apple released some updates, and for the AirPods Pro, every version, there were firmware updates. And you can see these updates, and if you have any of those operating systems running on your machine, make sure you have the latest updates that are listed there. Coming, and not yet released totally, are the 26.2s for all of Apple's operating systems there. Their fourth quarter, they did pretty good financially. As you can see from the numbers, most everything was up except for iPad, and which was the same. It didn't change. They did declare a dividend, you can see. Now, Apple and Samsung are competing in the Vision headsets. And here's what Apple's look like, and here's what Samsung's looks like. And you can see that thing that Samsung has reminded me of what early TV of the 1940s considered high tech for their Captain Video sci-fi episodes, which I used to watch in the New York metropolitan area over the Dumont television network. And an M5 MacBook Pro issue, reviewers found it was up to 2 times faster in graphics and speeds over the SSD speeds over the M4 model it replaced, and the battery lasted longer. And they found that the new chip runs harder and consumes more energy than the other one. And they found out that both of the MacBook Pros have only one fan inside. And that one fan in the M5 MacBook Pro is not really capable of providing the optimal cooling needed. But the machine still works fine. But it looks like there's not going to be a second fan installed in that model. So the one fan design is here to stay, apparently. Now for people using iOS 26, a lot of online complaints that typing is somehow broken on iPhones with iOS 26 or 2601 installed. Sometimes letters that have been typed get replaced with a different letter. No clear pattern. Same word can produce different errors on separate attempts, and it's not limited to only one iPhone model, as it occurs on many of the models, as long as iOS 26 or 2601 is installed. The fix is up to Apple, and I don't know if 26.1 fixed it yet or not. Now, Apple CarPlay, the CEO of GM, Mary Barra, recently told The Verge that they're going to remove Apple CarPlay and Android Auto from all of their future vehicles, both the gas and electric, which is going to take several years. They want to get their own infotainment platform installed in all of their vehicles, and so that they can keep control, total control, without sharing their ecosystem with Apple or Google. What's happening is that they're removing CarPlay and replacing it with a system nobody asked for, and that system they're replacing it with is worse than what they're replacing. And they don't want Apple to have a toehold on the dashboards, and there's a whole lot of complaints coming from all sorts of areas. Now that macOS 26 Tahoe is out of beta and a lot of people have got it, they found that Apple has changed all of its icons. And so here's what they look like over time. The original let me take a check in here and change my, I'll change that. Okay, back to play. This is what the system preferences icons used to look like. The one they've got now is the lower right. The original is always going to be on the lower left. And folders changed. The original was kind of plain, and now the one that they've got shows that it has something contained in it. And stickies, I like the original or the one in the middle, top middle.
Well,
and here's notes. The original, I like that best. And messages, since I don't get them, they can do what they want with it. The calculators started out looking pretty good on the top row and the second row. Game Center, the top left is the best one for me. I wouldn't know what the one on the bottom right stood for unless somebody told me. The dictionary looked pretty good on the top row, but it's not very much on the bottom right. Maps, they all kind of look the same. Photo booth, the top row looks best for me. And chess, well, they all kind of look the same. Reminders, the top left one I like the best. iBooks and Apple Books, they're all kind of the same. And here's Time Machine, the original I like the best. And here's what an empty trash can looked like. Probably the lower left one was a pretty good one. And here's what a trash can full looked like over time. And again, I like the lower left one. And calendar, mail, Automator, if you use that. Disk utility, the top row and the bottom left. The new one just doesn't mean a whole lot to me. And here's preview. They're all pretty good. And mission control, the top left one I like the best. Migration assistant, you have to really know what they're trying to get to you. The top row is pretty good, but the new one on the bottom right doesn't really tell you anything.
Hmm.
Here's iPhoto photos, the top row, tell you what you're looking at. And here's Pages. I like the original one, and the top row is pretty good. And Keynote, they're all kind of the same, so you have to really know what you're looking at. And Numbers and Contacts, the address book. Once again, the top row is the best one for me. And the DVD player is pretty obvious on the top row. How about the airport utility? For the first two Apple airports, that's what they actually looked like when you used them. So there was no problem about what that was for. And here's the keychain access, and the keys to me look best on the top left. Text edit on the top left really tells you what that is. But the bottom right one is the one now. That doesn't tell me too much. Now, let's see, Steve's $1 gold coin. I guess I didn't get to delete that, but we saw that last time. And here are the rumors. The so-called folding iPhone may be coming with maybe an underscreen camera, maybe, and a flip style iPhone in 2028, maybe. And a touchscreen for the MacBook Pro is maybe next year sometime. And that famous low-cost Mac laptop is supposedly being tested right now. Well, somehow the meeting feedback form has interrupted my presentation, so I'll have to escape.
Just slide it over, Ridge.
I have no
It's like that on the iPad too. You can't move it. You have to answer it or close it.
Yeah.
Well, here's some more of the rumors. Mac Studio, Apple is paying more attention to rather than the Mac Pro. And there's another article online that says Apple's preparing for Tim Cook to step down sometime, and they're going to name somebody in the future. And thank you for your attention to this part of the presentation. And now we'll look for some items of security interest. Not a whole lot of them, though. Adobe didn't have anything they wanted us to know about, and Mozilla updated Firefox with 2 fixes, and Microsoft had a fix for Office, and Google had 4 fixes in Chrome, and Apple's had a bunch of fixes. If you're running any of the operating systems there, you want to see that there's a whole bunch of fixes that have been security oriented. And take a look at all of those and make sure you're running the latest version of those versions. Google Ads. A malicious campaign starting up targeting developers with fake platforms that deliver info stealing malware. They checked some of those domains. The company Bleeping Computer discovered the traffic to the sites was driven by Google Ads, indicating that the the threat actor promoting them to appear in Google search results. And those sites figure convincing download portals for the fake apps and instruct users to copy a certain command in terminal to install them. But here's some good news. Adam Hanks says that if you're running Mac OS 26 right now, it's not going to be harmful if you wait to update Tahoe until 26.2 is released in December. And remember, Apple is always updating XProtect to keep us Mac users safe. And thanks again. Stay safe. On adios.
Thanks, Ridge.
Yep.
Thank you, Ridge.
Did I stop sharing?
You did now.
Okay, good.
Just fine. Now we're going to go to our accessibility minute, which may need to be renamed in future. But Chris, are you ready to take over and give us your...
I am. I'm videoless, and I apologize that I don't have screenshots because this is something I think I may try to add in the future to help with a little bit of clarity. Something I noticed today that came out with the third beta of 26.2, and it's called Reduce White Point. Now, this may have been there before, but on the iPhone and the iPad, there's now a slider. Tahoe on the Mac is a little bit different because you can change the contrast to the monitor, which seems to be new. Both of these I found really helpful. One of the challenges that we were talking about earlier in the Ask Me Anything is that some of the liquid glass, and maybe all of it, depending on your perspective, makes it more difficult to read stuff. And there are two ways to change the display settings. One is just under, when you open the system settings, it's right there. It's called displays or something to that effect, depending on your OS. And there are settings in there. Then you can go into accessibility and look in the vision part, and under there's display and text. Well, that's where I am right now with this reduced white point. Now, if you haven't been a photo processor in the past, this may be a new term for you in terms of white point and black point. Basically, with something like black point, if you make it stronger, the blacks are stronger in like a photograph to the point where it starts distorting the image. The whites, on the other hand, I always view this as sort of like the intensity of the light. And I'm very sensitive to glare. So I found this very helpful on all three devices, on the phone, the iPad, and the increased contrast on the Mac. So this is something to consider when you're using the 26 OSs. Like we've talked about before, you can reduce transparency, you can increase contrast, and you can, motion is really kind of separate. But this thing with white point, now people are, needless to say, complaining that this seems like an awful lot to do, and why isn't there a basic slider? Well, Apple seems to be going in the direction of so there's now a slider for the lock screen, and several people, including the main guy on Mac Rumors, is saying, everybody thinks that eventually there is going to be just a slider, and why didn't Apple do that in the first place? But suffice it to say, one of the challenges of taking on the OS 26s, as I call the group, is to dial in how you like your monitor to look. And particularly if you have a non-Apple monitor, like mine's an LG, you may find that reducing the white point is really helpful. So with that part out of the way, there are several tips that I picked up this week, or this month, from iPhone Life. The first one is something that I've wanted for a long time, and I just didn't even know it was here. And let's say you receive a text message at lunch and you see it come across the screen, and you click on it, and you read it, and then you realize, oh, I wish I could unread that so that I could show it as fresh to look at it later. Well, there's an easy way to do that now. If someone is in the top of the messages field, in other words, they have a circular icon for your pinned contacts, you can just long tap and select Mark as unread. And for someone in the list underneath that, and yes, I wish it was more than 9 circles. I could really happily use 12, but that's a whole nother topic. You can slide the text itself to the right, and there will be a blue icon. You can tap on that, and lo and behold, the unread blue dot will appear again. And I really find that helpful. Excuse me. I get a lot of text messages, and sometimes I want to refer them, answer them later. Another one of the topics we talked about this earlier was mark my location in Apple or Google Maps. You can do it on either one by doing a long press on the icon, and then there's a choice that says mark my location, and then you can share that marked location, which I did earlier with myself, and I sent it to myself, and I'm happily getting reminders back and forth that I have shared my location. Fortunately, it was only for an hour. The next one I wanted to, let's see, in the other location one, from the Apple Watch. You can go in, the Apple Watch has the Find My app actually broken down into different little applets. One is called Find People. And from that Find People, you can share your location. So that is another way to do it. And either for an hour, for all day, or whatever, this is just part of the location sharing with other people. The final one is, it's sort of subtle, but in the past with text messages, it was not easy to just select the text inside the message bubble. You had to right click or long click on the message and select copy, and then it would select the whole message. Now, when you long press on the messages and you get the feedback icons like the heart and the thumbs up and thumbs down and all of that comes up at the top, but underneath it, there's a contextual menu, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth selection is select. And then with select selected, you can go into a text message and grab any part of that message that you want. And I have a couple of friends, and I've been guilty of this myself, that like to send these text messages that span more than one screen, i.e. very long text messages. So if that's something that you're encountering and you want to copy and paste for some reason, part of that message, there's an easy way to do that now. And I think, Bob, that's just about all that I've got. Any questions? And again, I apologize that they're not screenshots. That may be a future improvement. Bob, we can chat about that a little bit, see if that's something we want to do.
Okay.
Rather than just, words without pictures here.
Okay, if there's no questions, we're going to move over to our guest speaker for the evening, Jeff, and have him educate us about Apple Maps and guides. Like, what is a guide? Who wants it? And how do you share it? And how do you make it? And so forth. And Jeff has been so kind as to make up a PDF of the top 10 tips for Apple guides. And I placed that into the TMUG Talk forum. So it's probably already in your inbox. So if you're ready, Jeff, take it away.
Well, thank you, Bob. Glad to be here. For those of you on the AMA, earlier you might have heard some of this. I am a small business owner in Northwest Indiana, 45 minutes outside of Chicago, right near the southern tip of Lake Michigan. Our our little town that we live in is, I like to say, one of, if not the only town on Lake Michigan that doesn't actually have access to the lake. We are a steel mill town. Quite literally, Bethlehem Steel is along our lakeshore, and in 1967 they incorporated this little town of Burns Harbor to keep it from being annexed into some of the bigger communities. So I live right at the southern end of Lake Michigan, which means, unlike some of you in Tucson, we once in a while get a lot of lake effect snow, which we had last week. Actually, we got about 9 inches of snow in November, which is very early in the year for that to happen. Like many of you, I've been deep in the Apple ecosystem for quite a while now, more years than I wish to admit. I met Bob at a MaxDoc conference a few years ago, talked with him this year. That's how I was invited to speak. I've attended 8 of the 9 so far, and will be in next year's 10th MaxDoc attendance. I also try to make it a habit to go to some of the Apple Store workshops that they put on. I find those to be sometimes helpful and other times less helpful. I think that depends on both the presenter and the audience that's there. And of course, many podcasts, many blogs, always trying to learn and understand what is available and what is new in the Apple world. Brings me around to why I'm here. One of the most quietly powerful features in Apple Maps that many users miss is called guides. I personally just discovered this about 1.5 years ago. And so over the next half hour or 40 minutes, I'll go through how guides can turn Apple Maps into your own travel planner, your own memory keeper, and even a local discovery tool. And they're all synced across the whole Apple system. So with that being said, we'll dig right in. I guess I should share my screen now. Let me get this presentation up. There we go. Okay, can you see my keynote?
Looking good, Jeff.
All right, good. So, an Apple way of exploring. Some of you will remember the day. Some of you will probably go back far enough to remember atlases, state by state roadmaps, having to unfold and fold them and tear them and coffee stain them and all those things. Then we spent the world of MapQuest and printing off directions to get somewhere, step-by-step directions, which I know I thought was pretty cool at the time. Then we got into kind of the Google Maps world, and we started dropping pins all over maps. And now we have Apple Maps and in the guides that can really make it helpful. When you think about Apple products, whether it's the MacBook, the phone, the watch, they all share one idea, which technology should just kind of disappear so you can focus on what matters. And Apple Maps is a great example of that. It's not just about directions, it's now become about discovery. And so they see an opportunity, I think, at Apple to make exploration feel simple and visual and connected. And Apple's way of saying, what if your map could tell you a story? That's how you kind of think about a guide, is it's a way of telling a story. So the history of Apple Maps, from joke to journey. They launched it and it was famously inept. I know, we had a story here near where I live where a bridge had actually been taken out because it was dangerous, and someone nearly drove off the end of the road following an Apple Map directions because they didn't have it recorded that the bridge was gone. So, but misplaced cities, directions that got you terribly in the wrong place. 2012 was not a good start. By 2015, they kind of went back to the well. They started up their own mapping project. They started driving millions of miles to collect their own data. They weren't relying on other sources. And by 2018, they rolled out an all new Apple Maps. In 2020, they added Look Around, which is kind of like Google Street View, where you can kind of get put yourself in a 3D environment to see where you're heading and what it may look like. So you kind of have some recognition when you arrive there. And in 2021, they released guides, and that kind of sat quietly there for a while. And then I think people started to discover it. And really now what we have is a really nicely integrated mapping system, something you can just use, like many of us do on our phone or in CarPlay, just set a destination and say, I want to go here, and let it give me directions to go there. So what are guides, and why should this kind of group of people care about that? Number one, you're an Apple enthusiast. So the more you know about Apple stuff, the happier we all tend to be. But it's also a really interesting curation of your own meaningful places, right? Whether those places are local, whether they're vacations you've traveled to. I've got a screenshot here of a few of our guides that I've put together for us. I was actually telling my son, who's now 32 and planning his first spring break trip with his 4 children and his wife. And he remembers the days of when I would put together a binder, an 8.5 by 11 binder, and I would have tabs in there, and I would have maps, and I would have reservation details. I would have things to do. I would have a whole itinerary mapped out and planned out, what we were doing on what days, that kind of thing. And although I stopped building out those binders several years ago, I've kind of replaced that with guides. It just gives me a very quick reference, because I can't speak for anyone else, but one of the things that causes more fights in my marriage is sitting in a new place or a place that we aren't that familiar with and saying, okay, what do you want to do now? Because we just start to argue about what direction we should head, or how come we didn't look this up or plan. So now we throw together a guide. I share it with her. My wife has it with her. So it's really helpful. And here's what another thing that I like about it is the guide tells a story. I can look back at our Hawaii guide and remember where we went. Some of the places I might have forgotten. I didn't take a picture. So, this really, it's a nice addition. So I am going to run this next slide. There's I made a quick video showing you how I created a guide in less than a minute. I hope the audio comes through. If it doesn't, I did a voiceover on this. I apologize if it's too quiet, but I'll run this now and show you how I created this guide in less than a minute. Let me show you how fast you can create a guide with Apple Maps. First, I got the plus button in the guide section to make a new guide.
You're right. The audio is too quiet.
Okay,
Jeff.
We'll go ahead and stop that then and move to the next slide. Because we're going to create a guide anyway. I'm going to walk you through it in my Apple Maps. So we'll get there. This is something I really do appreciate. And I think it really makes a difference between, let's say, Google Maps and Apple Maps. If you're trying to decide which tool to use, the moment you create or update a guide, it syncs instantly through iCloud. So if you're on your Mac or laptop and you're planning your trip, you set it up there, then you decided that night you're on your iPad sitting in your living room and you're looking up places you want to visit. It's updated right there on the maps in the iPad. And then when you're out and about and you have your phone with you, it's also synced right to your maps in your phone. So you don't have to export, you don't have to send, you don't have to upload anything, you don't have to remember, did I put the guide on my phone? All that, it just happens in a very beautiful Apple way. And they're also available in CarPlay. So it's easy to open a guide, pick a spot, or if your navigator can open the guide in CarPlay, pick where you want to go next. it's right there in the guide. So it takes something that's pretty complex, cloud syncing across devices, real-time updates, and you barely even know it's happening. So I think that's a really cool part of having a guide. Now that we've seen how Apple keeps your guides in sync, let's go through some of the other hidden powers that I find in guides. Whether that's you're in Safari, you find a place you want to visit on a particular trip you're going to take, or even in your own hometown or your own area. You can quickly get that, drop that address into Maps and add it to a guide. You can also be connected with your calendar, although I found that to be somewhat iffy. Works with Siri. You can open a guide. Sorry about that. I won't say the name any longer. The S person, and have them open a guide for you. So that works out very well. I love that it works in CarPlay. You can also take metadata off your photos on your phone and drop them into guides, those locations, so that you can remember places you have seen while you're on vacation. So I think it just really does connect nicely. And as I've been talking, trip planning on the ground when you arrive, you can also share and revise. So, that's perfect for travel planning. And I'll show you a couple examples of this here in a couple moments. There was my wife, we've been married over 34 years, and this summer in late July, she took a girls' trip, which she has never done before. We've always traveled together. And frankly, it was a road trip and a long one from here to Denver, Colorado. So I was a little nervous with her traveling without me and three of her girlfriends. So I built a guide. I built a guide for them so they knew where, large truck stop rest areas were. If they needed to stop, there were safer places than just pulling off on an exit that has a gas station necessarily. I put in, we've traveled to Denver, so I put in a number of places that she knew she wanted to take a few of her girlfriends that hadn't been there before. Put the whole guide together, shared it to her, and she looked brilliant on the trip. Everybody else was trying to figure out how to navigate and how to where they could stop and all those kind of things. And she just pulled it up on her phone, and it was right there. She actually added places to the guide in real time, and she utilized it very, very well. So from a travel planning perspective, it works great. And obviously, when you arrive, my wife and I took a trip to Phoenix. We'd never been to Phoenix, and we went Memorial Day this year. And we put a whole guide together, and we didn't really have an itinerary. We didn't have a plan. We were just going to spend a few days exploring the area. And so we loaded a bunch of places into our Arizona guide and drove around and checked out a number of different places in the Phoenix Mesa area. So, that was on the ground, and I share that guide. I always share that with her. Another great example, unrelated to trip planning. My wife and I own a business, be in business 30 years next year, and we are a 100% remote work company. And I have a guide that I've shared with a few of our management team that has all of our addresses and locations. As an example, tomorrow, one of our managers is going to deliver pies. There was a fundraiser at one of our grandchildren's schools, and we took orders for everyone and bought everyone Thanksgiving pies. And so he's going to deliver pies tomorrow. And I shared the guide with him. So now he knows where everybody lives, every address. He doesn't have to worry about it. He has CarPlay in his car, so he'll just load it up and go. So makes it very helpful that way. There's lots of uses. It's like so many things in the Apple world. Once you start to experiment with it, you come up with all kinds of interesting use cases and ideas for how you might use a guide. You don't think about needing maps at home. We were discussing this when I went through this presentation with my wife. to kind of give it a test run. She's like, well, why would I want to put where my favorite grocery stores and markets are? So, well, you might not, but you may want to put together a guide for someone that's moving to the area. If you have a friend coming in or family coming in, you could throw together a guide of places, pharmacies, grocery stores, hardware stores, places that people might need if they're moving and coming in new. Contractors and other home services, HVAC, everybody's looking for a plumber or an HVAC person or electrician. I haven't built it yet, but I'm for sure going to build a family favorite restaurant guide, because the ever popular question, what do you want to eat tonight when we're going out to eat, could be hopefully improved by having a guide of places we maybe haven't eaten yet and want to eat at. And grandkids' favorite places. I thought that was a great idea. My wife actually came up with that one, because every so often we'll get our 5 grandkids together and take them places. And of course, we don't necessarily know where all the parks are with the best slides and the best playground equipment, or the right trampoline parks or those kind of things. So we, as we learn that, we just kind of load them in. For work, you could load in coffee shops that you like to work at if you need to, or coffee shops in some of your territory if you're a salesperson. Or I mentioned employee locations. You could do client locations and put them all in a guide. Airports, hotels, car rental locations, things like that. And then just fun things, local concert venues, museums, parks, trails, date night ideas that you could just throw in a guide and cross off the list as you go. And you can even publish your own guide and share it with the world. And we, a few years ago here where I live, we just were designated a Indiana Dunes National Park. Up to that point, we were a national lakeshore. And when we redesignated as a national park, visitors to this area has nearly doubled. And I've thought to myself often, I should put together a guide and just share it of great places to visit in Indiana Dunes. So those are just some of the ideas of different ways you could use guides that aren't necessarily, I'm going on a trip to a location and I want to put together a guide. Sharing is so nice, and it's so quick and easy. You share a guide. I like to share them via text message or messages app, but you can airdrop them. You can create a QR code even if you want to have somebody scan a QR code. And I really do like it. And the nice part is it's editable on both. It's bi-directional. So if I share a guide to my wife and she wants to add some locations, not a problem. She just puts them in. The guide then syncs back to me, updated, and everything stays in sync, and we both always have the latest version of the guide. So it really works out well. If I was going to say for a group like this, power tips for power users, I really like Look Around. That may be because I'm a control freak, but I really do like to kind of get a picture of where I'm heading. So I may do a look around of a hotel we're going to stay in. So I just know what the area around and what the hotel front looks like, what the area around the hotel might look like. So I know if I'm in the right area, if I've arrived at the right location. It just gives me a degree of comfort to have kind of seen it before, so to speak. You can duplicate guides. So, we were lucky enough to visit Hawaii in April, and some neighbors of ours were going in June. And so they were asking us, where should they see? What should they see? Where should they visit? And I just duplicated our Hawaii guide and shared it to them and said, cheers, now you can do with it and change it however you want. And they were very appreciative of that. And instead of having to sit down and go through, 2 or 3 hour evening of in a bottle of wine to talk about places they should go, they just had my guide that we put together and used ourselves. So I mentioned earlier, Siri can open it. And, I'm not good about this because I'm pretty boring, but I love the idea that you can use emojis to kind of help identify your guides. You know, if it's your favorite coffee shops, make sure to throw a coffee cup emoji in there. Visually, it does make it easy to find things, I think, a little quicker that way. And you can also put your own photos as the cover photo to your guides. So we'll look at that too when we look at some of my guides that I put together. And again, as I mentioned, for me, it's all connected, literally right down to my watch. You know, if I'm getting directions from a guide to a location, you know, I'm getting turn-by-turn directions on my watch. I created it on my MacBook and iPad. I use it on CarPlay. So that's all really, I think, one of the big perks of not only Apple Maps, but guides specifically. So I'm going to do a walkthrough of how to create a guide. So I'm going to, instead of sharing my Keynote, I'm going to actually share my Maps application. So let's do this. Stop sharing for just a moment. Okay, so can we confirm you now see my Maps app?
Nope.
Now,
Yep.
how about now?
Now,
Good. All right. So I should go back here. Once you open Maps, you'll see over here in the left sidebar, guides. If it's not there, you can always also go to the menu bar and in view, where did I find that? Oh no, it should always be there. So if you tap on guides, I have a number of guides already in place, but you can easily start to add guides. You'll notice the plus button right down here makes that easy. You can also sort the guides or select multiple guides that way and get rid of guides if you'd like to. I tend to be a digital hoarder, so I tend to hang on to things. So, you know, here is an example. I mentioned that girls' trip that I planned a guide for. And so they were actually leaving here and going to Missouri to pick up the last member of the group. So I put together a whole guide going across I-70 through Missouri and Kansas and into Colorado with travel centers and that kind of thing. They were not staying on the road. They were driving all the way from Missouri in one day. And then I added places then in the Denver area that we have visited or that they wanted to visit while they were there. And as I zoom in, you can see those locations kind of identified with icons instead of pins. And they're also right over here. So if I click on a particular location, it'll zoom right into the Cherry Creek Shopping Center in Denver. And Bob, you asked the question during the AMA. I did find that you can add a note here. It will be private to you as the guide owner, but you could add notes here yourself for your own information.
Thank you.
So we'll go back to the bigger guide. And here's the guide I put together for our trip to Arizona this year. We didn't get down to your guys' neck of the woods, but we visited a number of places. My wife has taken up painting, so she likes to go to art stores and art supply places when we visit. And we certainly had time on this trip. We put in some restaurants. You know, we Camelback to make sure we visited there, Old Town in Scottsdale, and we ate there. And so, yeah, there were a number of different places we quickly added to the guide for our own use. We didn't necessarily visit every one of these, But they were here as an option and a place of interest if we wanted to go there. Like we did not get a chance to go to the zoo while we were there, but we did have it on the guide list. So it makes it very easy. Now here's an example of a guide that I did not put together that someone else did, and it is 13 Sedona's best photo spots. So this is a guide that I added to my guides, and I'll show you how you can find some of these that someone else put together. They did a really nice job. I really like the descriptions. And they have a number of different locations in the Sedona area that are great photo spots. Didn't realize Bob was a photographer, so he probably is familiar with some of these locations. And to do that, you have to, no, I can't remember. Well, it's the new version. Nope, that didn't work. I have to show you how you can find those guides that other people have published, because it is helpful when you're visiting somewhere new, that you might want to go ahead and download someone else's guide. I'm going to delete that because we're going to rebuild that guide right now. So once you're in Maps, you go into Guides, and you want to create a new guide. I'm going to create a guide of some coffee shops here near me, just as an example. So you just click that plus box, and then it comes up with a list. And I'm just going to call this my favorite coffee shops. And just click the blue check. So now I have a guide, and I want to add locations to it. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to say Fluid Coffee. And this is the one I want in Chesterton. So I'll add that to my guide. And then we'll do a Starbucks.
We're still seeing the Sedona map.
Oh my, okay. Thank you. Why is that? Oh, okay. That's because I'm actually, there we go. Now you should see something that looks less familiar. Northwest Indiana.
Yes.
And now I'll add a last one. We'll do a Bigby Coffee. So there, I've just added 3 coffee shops near me. You can see I don't know if it's AI or machine learning, but Apple decided to place a image in there for me. I could replace that if I wanted to myself. And put a photo of my own choosing in there. Oops. So it's quite simple to put one together. And then as you click on the particular ones, you can add a note. You know, it's just like having a location pulled up in Maps. You can get overall ratings. Tells me this location is in my favorite coffee shop guide. Gives me hours of operation, and it even allows me to favorite this location, thumbs up it, add photos to this. So there's a number of things I can also do right here from inside Maps and inside in Guides and Maps. Very simple, quick, way to take a look at where you're heading, or what's part of your guide now. So it's, again, very simple, very straightforward. Just a quick example of adding a guide. Now, if I want to, so if I want to share the guide, at that point, I can just use it just like a share sheet. And I can choose, do I want to share it via AirDrop, through messages, to anyone in particular. So there's a number of different ways you can share a guide out. Very, very easy to do. And like I said, the beautiful part is it's not a static guide. If the person you shared it with adds places to it, it'll update in real time for you. So I did want, oh, there we go. So you can edit. You click the pencil icon down here at the bottom. It allows you to remove places. It allows you to change the photo. Or retitle the guide if you wanted to retitle the guide you created. So it is editable that way. I'm going to leave the Apple chosen photo on the guide for now, but it's quite simply that easy to put a guide together. So, questions about that process?
What OS are you running at this time? And this is on your Mac?
This is on my Mac. I'm running Mac OS 26.
Okay.
26.1 actually now. So yes, maps may look a little different on previous OS.
Are there any other guides? Are there any other questions from the floor?
You just put the name in.
Yeah, it was that easy. If I wanted to come in and let's see, I could add another. I just click the plus, and this allows me to search maps, so I can quickly search. Trying to think of what's one in Michigan City.
I don't think we're seeing your search box. It's probably a dialog box on top of the map.
So it's probably layered on top that you guys can't see. But I'll add this location. I added a second Big Coffee location in another Michigan City's a ways away. So yeah, it's quick search box, and helpful to know the name you're looking for, but if you put in, any kind of term close, I just put in coffee in Michigan City and came up with Big Coffee relatively quickly. So it's a very simple search right inside Maps, or you could paste an address in. For example, if you were in Safari and you found a local coffee roaster you wanted to visit, you could copy their address, paste it come into your guide, add it, and paste in the address, and it'll put it. You can name it. You can put details in about it as well that way.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff. It's been illuminating, and I, for one, still kind of miss the paper maps. I used to work at a gas station after school when I was a kid, and made sure I had copies of all the latest ARCO maps,
AAA maps,
any place I wanted to go. I also want to let you know that if you and your wife decide to come back to Southern Arizona, let me know. I'd be happy to make a guide for you for the greater Tucson area, which some of us will say is a nicer place to visit than Phoenix. It's older, it has more history, and it's smaller and easier to get around. And we have plenty of art around here as well.
The sprawl in Phoenix was quite large. It just is very sprawling. We now that we're both in our late 50s, one of our to-dos on that was to check out some of the 55 and older communities, because obviously Arizona has many of those. But traveling between them became very time consuming.
Well, things are further apart out here in the wild, wild west
Yes,
than they are in the Midwest.
that's true.
And also, you're used to navigating the Chicago spaghetti junctions.
Oh, yeah.
So Phoenix isn't so foreign to you as it might be other places. But yeah, again, if you want to come for a trip and are passing through Tucson or coming to Tucson, let me know.
I will.
I'll make a guide for you.
We love the Southwest, and we've actually talked about visiting other places. So next time we're going to be in that area, Bob, I will let you know.
Okay, very good. Then we have one more job for you, Jeff,
Okay.
and that is to help us pick our raffle winner for this evening. So what I'd like you to do is ask your S lady to pick a number between 1 and 25.
All right. I'm going to mute my.
A random number between 1 and 25 is 7.
7.
And 7 is Alexis Garrett. I don't think she's still in attendance. Kurt, can you tell me if Alexis is a current member?
I am attending and I'm not a current member, but thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, see, you lost out. You could have been a winner of the door prize. So back to Jeff, can you try to find another number?
And 25 is 12.
12.
12. 12 is Mark Yarnish. And Mark is with us, and I'm pretty sure Mark is a T-Mug member. Can you confirm that, Mark?
As far as I know, I am, and I'm jumping.
Okay, excellent.
He is.
And you haven't won a door prize in the last 6 months?
I haven't won one in the last 6 years, I don't think.
Okay. Then in the next day or so, I will send off a Apple gift card to you from us, and congratulations, Mark. I need to mark that down so I don't forget. I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa, for your hand clapping here. We see that happening. And are there any other questions for anybody in attendance?
I would like to comment. I don't travel anymore. So I was thinking that the session would not be all that interesting to me. But it turned out that it really was, because all the things that one can do locally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Susan. I think that's an overlooked aspect. We assume we know the world around us and we're very comfortable in it. But I can think of multiple reasons. Convenience, just having a local guide for places that you visit regularly makes it quick and easy to share with friends and family. And how about places you don't visit that often, but are nearby, that maybe you do want to have in a guide? How often do you go to your dentist? Probably more than any of us want to, but or your eye clinic, your eye doctor, maybe places that I guess we aren't as frequent to, especially in urban areas where you can get turned around and end up on the wrong way on a one-way street if you're not careful. So yeah, I think there's a number of good uses for local guides.
Right. One thing I was thinking about is that for some reason, people, service people who come to my house, their maps lead them to my garage, which is on a different street. I give my address on 3rd Avenue, but they end up on the street behind. So I could create a guide for them.
Absolutely.
Okay. It was delightful to meet you at MacStock. And
You as well,
it's
Bob.
very likely that Roger and I will be there again in the summer of 26.
Yes, I recognize
And
Roger.
I think I want to, sit down and talk with Roger. I think one of the things, I drive to MacStock from Tucson, and Roger is my co-pilot on the eastbound trip. And every time we try to have some different place to stop and see and look at. So, Roger, maybe we need to make a guide for around MacStock of places of interest that we have seen, and you might find helpful as well, and offer that to other MacStock attendees.
We could do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay. Okay. In that case, well, I think we're going to say goodbye and happy Thanksgiving and happy, what was it, Sweet Potato Day or something like that, that is going on as well. And please be safe. Please consider donating to the Southern Arizona Food Bank and send us a check, and we will match that contribution and send it off to the food bank probably somewhere around Christmas. And be safe and come back and visit us again next month. And you're certainly welcome as well, Jeff, to continue receiving the newsletter and stop by and visit our meetings whenever you can and would find it interesting.
Well, thank you. I will take you up on that offer.
Okay. And we'll see. If you're not here in December, we'll certainly tell Jill that she inspired you, and you've lost a bunch of weight, and your shirt is almost too big for you. And isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, well, my wife is starting to question whether I need to start to go buy some new clothes, but I'm not ready yet, but I want to lose a few more. But.
I hear you. So good night, everybody. Yes,
you need
Susan.
to put the the survey up for responses to the meeting.
I don't control the survey, Susan. That's Roger.
Oh,
I see it here.
Roger.
I put it in the chat, and there's also a QR code in there that you can access with your iPhone.
Excellent. Thank you, Roger. And we'll see you again next month.
Thanks, Jeff. Great
Bye.
presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Looking forward to using it in Tahoe.
Okay. Excellent. Bye-bye.